Hey lovelies! On a chilly autumn morning, is there anything more satisfying than a sweet spiced bowl of oatmeal? I don't think so. So today I'm sharing 3 delicious oatmeal ideas that I promise will get you out of bed with a lot more enthusiasm. Come on. We're getting started today with an apple pie inspired oatmeal that tastes a lot like dessert for breakfast. So there's a lot to love about it, of course. I'm gonna get started by softening up my apple. I wanna give it a little bit of a head start on my oats. So to do that, I'm just going to get some butter into my pan. Once the butter is melted, I'm gonna go ahead and get my apple into the pot. As you can see, I have cut my apple into quite fine pieces. I wanna make sure that it's well distributed through my oatmeal. The other thing that happens if you cut it a little more finely is it's going to soften up quite a bit faster. The other thing I am going to do at this point is get some sweetness in this pan, and I'm going to do that with some brown sugar. You always have the option to use some maple syrup instead here. You just want to add a little bit of sweetener to really bring out the flavor of this apple. While those apples are cooking away, I thought I would give you a quick update on this belly here. I am now 28 weeks pregnant, which means I'm just starting into my 3rd trimester. Feeling great so far, getting a little tired, a little more sluggish. So if I seem a little low energy, that's probably why, but I could not be more excited to meet this little one. It is due on December 31st, and I will be sharing the gender with you guys in the next month or so, so stay tuned for that. Now, my apples are looking delicious. A nice syrup is forming on the bottom of my pan, which is really exciting. So it's time to get the rest of my ingredients into my pot. Of course, because this is oatmeal, I am starting with my oats. Now, I'm using old-fashioned rolled oats in all of these recipes. I think they are the best thing to cook up for breakfast. You always have the option to use quick cooking oats or steel cut oats, but both have different cooking times, so you'll wanna make sure you check your package directions so that you're getting the right cooking time. Once my oats are in the pan, it is time to add my liquid. You could go ahead and add some water or some milk to this. Those would be traditional. But since we want to make this extra delicious, I am adding some apple cider instead. It's really important to note that where I come from in the world, apple cider is a non-alcoholic drink. It's very similar to apple juice, except a lot more concentrated in terms of its apple flavor. In other parts of the world, I know that apple cider is actually alcoholic. That is not what we're using here. This is breakfast after all. So if you can't find non-alcoholic apple cider where you are, go ahead and swap in some apple juice instead. Both will work really well. What we want is just to amp up that apple flavor even more. For my final ingredient, I am adding a good sprinkle of apple pie spice. Now you can sometimes find apple pie spice mixed up in the spice aisle at your grocery store. If you can't find it, not to worry, I will link a recipe in the description box below so you can make your very own. It's really a combination of a little cinnamon, some cloves, little allspice, lots of good fall flavors. Once you've got that mixture stirred up, we'll bring it to a boil, and once it reaches a boil, you'll reduce your heat to medium-low, cover it up, and let it simmer away for just 5 minutes. That's really all it takes. Then you can serve this yumminess immediately with some chopped walnuts, and you have a breakfast you can feel really good about. Trust me guys, if you start whipping this up in the morning, your kids are going to be running down the stairs to see what is cooking in the kitchen. Next, for another classic fall flavor, I am mixing up some chai spice oatmeal. If you're not familiar with chai spice, you are in for a treat. It is so super tasty. Once again, I've got a saucepan on the stove. I'm just gonna heat that up over medium-high. To that, I am going to add my rolled oats and some black tea. Now I'm using orange pekoe here. Any kind of tea will definitely do. I am also adding some milk to this. So the milk is gonna help our oatmeal be a little richer and creamier. If you don't wanna add dairy milk here, you could definitely swap in a milk of your choice. Almond, hemp, soy, or cashew would all work really well. And once I've got all my liquid in my pot, I'm going to start to build in that amazing chai flavor. So I'm starting with a little bit of vanilla extract, a little sprinkle of cinnamon, some ground ginger, and finally, the real secret to a chai spice, some ground cardamom. Now, I absolutely adore cardamom, but I will say a little bit goes a long way in a recipe like this, so you can use it sparingly, which is actually good news because it can be a little on the expensive side. For the sweetener in this oatmeal, I'm using maple syrup. You always have the option to swap in some honey, some agave, some brown sugar, or you can leave the sweetener out entirely. It's definitely your call. I'm gonna give all of this a stir, bring the mixture to a boil, and then once it's reached a boil, I'll reduce my heat to medium-low and let it cook away for about 5 minutes. Guys, a few short minutes later, what you have is chai tea magic. Get out of town. I like serving it with some vanilla-flavored Greek yogurt for protein and a good sprinkling of pistachios for crunch. Come on, guys, you just gotta give this one a try. Finally, we couldn't be celebrating autumn anything without a little ode to pumpkin oat. Without a little oat to pumpkin spice. So next, I am making some pumpkin spice oatmeal, and it all starts once again with my saucepan on the stove. To that, I am adding my rolled oats plus half water and half milk. Then we are going to add our pumpkin puree. Now, I am one of those people who really believes that it's not right to make pumpkin spice anything without also adding some pumpkin to the recipe. For those of you who don't know, pumpkin is actually loaded with all sorts of good for you vitamins and minerals. So the more pumpkin you can sneak in to your pumpkin spice recipes, the better off you're going to be. Then I'm going to top it off with some maple syrup for sweetness. And finally, I am using some pumpkin pie spice. Again, pumpkin pie spice can usually be purchased in the spice aisle at your supermarket, but if you have a hard time finding it, no problem. I will link my homemade pumpkin pie spice in the description box and you can make it yourself. Once you've given this mixture a good stir, you can bring it to a boil, then reduce your heat to low, and once again, let it simmer for about 5 minutes. And that's all it takes for pumpkin spice breakfast deliciousness to make its way to your table. You'd seriously have to be out of your mind to not enjoy this oatmeal. I'm just gonna say it, it's better than a latte because you can eat it. It's a latte better than a latte. We're on fire today. Just call me Rapunzel. Guys, I really hope you will give all 3 of these delicious sweet autumn recipes a try. And if you do, be sure to tweet me, Instagram me, or Facebook me a photo because I always love seeing your kitchen creations. Keep in mind the full recipes are all linked in the description box below. And finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.